Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about my top 20 favourite films from 1994. These are all in accordance with the release dates from IMDb, and again, these are my top 20 personal favourite movies from this year. There's no right or wrong to this is purely just opinion based. All the films I'm going to talk about in this video, I am recommending to watch. I don't think there's really any bad films in this list. I enjoyed all of these films I'm going to talk about, whether they're in the list or just honourable mentions. They're all at least worth watching at least once. So, that being said, 1994 just churned out some absolute gems this year. There were only really good films and masterpieces, in my opinion, from this year. So I'm going to get straight into the honourable mentions. And my first one is Heavenly Creatures, directed by Peter Jackson. Yeah, just one of a few great films he directed in the 90s. This one, sort of about two schoolgirls that sort of end up forming this dangerous bond, and their parents sort of try and put a wedge between them, and it just leads to just some dire consequences. But yeah, definitely recommend this one. Check it out if you've not seen it. Next honourable mention for me is The Hudsucker Proxy, directed by the Coen Brothers. Not my favourite Coen Brothers movie. It's sort of the attempt at comedy for them, which does work. But as I said, it's not one of my favourite Coen Brothers films. They've done much better work in my opinion, but this is still worth checking out. Next honourable mention for me is Airheads. Premise to this one is pretty much about a rock band that wants to sort of get a bit more exposure, so this radio station just sort of like won't play their music, so they hold it at gunpoint really to try and get their music played, and it's sort of like a Dog Day Afternoon but with a rock band. Next honourable mention for me is the 94 version of Little Women. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Great sort of period drama film. Is as good as the new remake that came out a couple of years ago with Saoirse Ronan and Emma Watson. Yeah, I just absolutely love this film. Next honourable mention for me, honourable mentions, is The Santa Claus and Miracle on 34th Street. Two really good Christmas movies to watch. They're not great by any means, but they're still enjoyable. So just touching on the Santa Claus a little bit, with Tim Allen pretty much taking on the role of Santa Claus after he accidentally sort of causes his death. My favourite scene in it is when he gets presents for his ex-wife and her new partner. The toys they wanted when they were children but never got. A Miracle on 34th Street. There's a scene in this that I absolutely fucking hate. It's when the con man in it, who's trying to get Richard Attenborough Santa Claus arrested. He just winks at the camera and breaks the fourth wall. I just hate that so much. It takes me completely out of the movie, but for me, Richard Attenborough is the heart and soul and the heartbeat of the movie. He's the reason to watch this film. He's just superb in it. Mara Wilson's great in it as well. But her parents in it, the storyline there, I just don't really give a toss about. I just watch it solely for Richard Attenborough because he's so good in it. But yeah, two movies that aren't masterpieces, but they're definitely still worth a watch. Next honourable mention for me is the very underrated The Last Seduction. I really enjoyed this film. Great sort of betrayal movie involving money about this couple as well. You've got Bill Pullman in there. Absolutely great. Next honourable mention for me is Interview with the Vampire. Got a Mandela effect with this title. A lot of people think it's called Interview with a Vampire. But no, it's Interview with the Vampire. Pretty much sort of follows Brad Pitt, who's being interviewed by Christian Slater's character about how he became a vampire, and he was bit by Tom Cruise. The film just sort of falls apart for me a little bit when Antonio Banderas shows up. Not that he's a bad actor or anything, I actually quite like him. But it just doesn't fit in this movie for me. The movie just falls flat on its arse at that point, in my opinion. But it's still got some creepy moments in it. That scene where Tom Cruise is sat at the piano freaks me out. But yeah, it's still an enjoyable film. Next honourable mention for me is Jean-Claude Van Damme in Time Cop. Great Van Damme sci-fi movie, this. It's got all the action what you would expect from a Van Damme film. Ron Silver's in it as well. Yeah, just a sort of guilty pleasure action movie. By no means a masterpiece, but still very, very enjoyable. Next honourable mention for me is probably one of the most famous rom-coms to come out of the 90s, and that is Four Weddings and a Funeral with Hugh Grant and Andy McDowell. Yeah, I fucking hated this film the first time I saw it. A lot of it just went over my head. But second viewing for me, watching it for the purpose of this video, I actually quite enjoyed it. Thought it was a lot better second time round. Yeah, wonderfully written by Richard Curtis. Yeah, if you've not seen it, check it out. Next honourable mention for me is a little underrated movie called The Paper. Got a great cast of this one. You've got Michael Keaton, Glenn Close, Marissa Tomei, Robert Duvall, and Randy Quaid, who all sort of work at this newspaper company. Yeah, I just thought it was really funny at times and just really, really underrated and underseen. Next honourable mention for me is The River Wild with Meryl Streep. Yeah, I loved this movie. It was really, really suspenseful. It's sort of about this family that go on vacation to this river that runs through these mountains. They've done it a few times, but they come across a couple of convicts that get escaped, played by, I think, John C. Reilly and Kevin Bacon, who sort of like take them hostage against their will for a little bit and are trying to outrun the police, but they need the family to guide them through the river because they're experienced in doing it, and they just sort of hold them to ransom. I just thought it was really tense and really good. Next honourable mention for me is the sci-fi movie Stargate with Kurt Russell and James Spader. Yeah, I absolutely love this film. It's also got the guy in it who was in The Crying Game, another movie I really loved. I think these were the only two movies that actor was in. But yeah, I know this movie spawned a lot of TV shows as well, sort of spin-off TV series. I've not seen any of those. But the film itself is wonderful and is worth checking out. Next honourable mention for me is Harrison Ford in Clear and Present Danger. I mean, who doesn't love Harrison Ford? This is the third Jack Ryan film, follow-up to Patriot Games. You got Willem Dafoe in there as well as the villain. Just a great, enjoyable sort of little action movie. Next honourable mention for me is another film that would probably most appear on people's top films from this year, and that's Natural Born Killers by Oliver Stone. I love this film the first time I saw it. Second time it was just a little bit deflated for me. Didn't get out of it what I got out of it the first time. Still enjoyable though, still well made and well acted. It's got a fantastic cast in this with Tommy Lee Jones, Robert Downey Jr., Woody Harrelson, Juliette Lewis, even Rodney Dangerfield's in this as a sort of abusive father. But yeah, it's just absolutely insane. But yeah, as I said, first time I saw it, loved it. Second time, didn't really get out of it what I wanted to, but it's still enjoyable and worth watching. Next honourable mention for me is Disclosure. This film massively holds up. At least the first two acts of the film hold up about sexual harassment. But it's done from the perspective of the female is the sexual harasser, and the Michael Douglas is the person being sexually harassed, but she accuses him of sexual harassment. as I said, it holds up in that regard with those themes and topics, but the third act of the film sort of falls flat on its arse for me again. It just has this scene where it just kind of wants to show off special effects instead of telling a decent story, and the special effects just don't hold up. Look pretty shit by today's standards. But the film's just, because this film was an early 90s film, it just kind of wants to shove that in your face. And as I said, the effects just aren't great and don't hold up by today. But those first two acts of the film are strong enough for me to recommend this. Next honourable mention is Danny Boyle's Shallow Grave. Not my favourite Danny Boyle movie, but this is still a very well-made movie. It's got a great cast with Christopher Eccleston and Ewan McGregor, about these guys who pretty much live in this flat. And there's sort of like a lot of double crosses by the end of it. I enjoyed it very much, but as I said, it's not my favourite Danny Boyle film. That probably goes to Trainspotting. But yeah, still enjoyed it enough to recommend. Next honourable mention for me is Muriel's Wedding with Toni Collette. I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. Thought it was just a ton of fun. Sort of pays homage to ABBA as well a little bit, which it's done more subtly than the Mamma Mia films. But yeah, just a fun film. Again, got some good enough parts in it for me to recommend. Next honourable mention for me is Robert Redford's Quiz Show. Really enjoy some Robert Redford directed films. This one was really good. You got Ralph Fiennes and John Turturro in there as well, who sort of take part in this quiz show to try and outdo each other. I just enjoyed the hell out of it. And my last honourable mention from '94 is Star Trek Generations. This film sort of sees the original cast, the ones of which who came back for this film anyway after Star Trek 6, sort of pass the torch on to the next generation cast. Yeah, as I said, just pass the baton on for that new string of films to follow this one. A lot of Star Trek fans, the hardcore fans anyway, don't really like this film because of how it ends things with Captain Kirk. I can agree with that. Yeah, it's not the best send off, but I'm fine with it because I'm not as hardcore a Star Trek fan as some other people are. Though this has got Malcolm McDowell in it as well, who's just a fantastic villain as Sauron. Anything he's in, it all touches turns to gold in my opinion. But yeah, it's just another great Star Trek edition film that I really dug. So yeah, they're all my honourable mentions. I'm going to get straight into the top 20 list now, and there are just, in my opinion, some absolute masterpieces in here as we sort of enter the top 10 and get to 1. But yeah, so I'm going to kick it off with number 20, and that for me is Reality Bites with Winona Ryder, Ethan Hawke and Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller, who actually directed this film as well. It sort of follows a group of students that are coming towards the end of college life. They've graduated, and it's all about what the next step in the future holds for these characters. Winona Ryder's in it, who I absolutely adore. I just think she's wonderful in everything that I've pretty much seen her in. Ben Stiller and Ethan Hawke are great in this too. You've got Steve Zahn in there as well. Janine Garofalo is in it as well as one of the friends. Yeah, it's just about these characters and what their next steps are in life. The soundtrack to this is absolutely great. You've got music by Squeeze, Peter Frampton, The Knack with that My Sharona song. So yeah, it sort of follows Winona Ryder's character, who's like wanting to make a documentary about her friends and stuff. And she gets into a car accident with Ben Stiller, and he says pretty much, they end up dating for a little bit, and he says, I'll take the footage you've got and I'll give it to my studio company, and we'll try and string something together. But without her approval, they create something that is just wasn't what she wanted it to be, or wasn't her vision. But yeah, it's just a great little movie that I liked, and it's a movie that's character driven. The plot's a bit thin, but I still enjoyed it very, very much. So yeah, moving on to number 19 for me, and that is Maverick. Great cast in this film. You got Jodie Foster, Mel Gibson, James Garner, a little cameo in there as well from Danny Glover. You sort of see the little Lethal Weapon reunion it pays not homage to. Alfred Molina as well, who's just, as the villain, is just absolutely great. Yeah, the movie's pretty much a western, and it sort of focuses on this poker tournament. But yeah, that's pretty much it, and it's just really engaging and really, really fun. So yeah, coming up at the number 18 spot for me is Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Yeah, just another fun film. The three leads in this, played by Guy Pearce, Hugo Weaving, and Terence Stamp, just have absolutely fantastic chemistry together with the three of them. It's Terence Stamp's playing this transsexual, and you've got Guy Pearce and Hugo Weaving, who play two gay drag queens. And it's just sort of follows them on tour with their show and the people that they run into, some accepting and some not. The scene for me that is the standout scene is with Hugo Weaving's character's son, who he's only a small child, but he finds out what his dad does. As his dad's a drag queen who's in this drag act, and he says to his son, "Does it not bother you what I do?" And the son's just like, "I don't care." He's like, "You're my dad. I love you," and it's just so progressive and so forward thinking, and it's just wonderful to see that in a film. Yeah, it just won me over with that scene alone. Absolutely fantastic, entertaining as hell, and worth checking out. Next for me at number 17 is Swimming with Sharks, starring he who must not be named, Kevin Spacey. Yeah, this film pretty much personifies what it's like to work for someone who is absolutely horrible and despicable. That being Kevin Spacey, who treats this worker pretty much like shit, and every time the worker tries to stand up to him, he treats him even more like shit. And the worker eventually gets a little bit of revenge on him, ends up kidnapping and torturing him. It just absolutely made for just some wonderful viewing. But yeah, it's absolutely insane, but it's so enjoyable to watch and entertaining. So coming up next for me at the number 16 spot is Roman Polanski's Death and the Maiden. I really, really dug this film. It sort of follows Sigourney Weaver's character and her husband, and someone stumbles on their house asking for help, played by Ben Kingsley. And Sigourney Weaver has a bit of a backstory where she was kidnapped, and they couldn't really investigate it because she never actually saw who the kidnappers were. She was pretty much blindfolded the entire time, and she recognises Ben Kingsley's voice from that scenario she was in, and she sort of ends up doing the same to him by kidnapping him and torturing him, but he constantly pleads his innocence and says, "You've got it completely wrong. It wasn't me. I'm not the person you think I am." I won't spoil the end to say whether it was Ben Kingsley or not. But again, it just leads to just some absolute fantastic film work. The cinematography is great in it. The story's great in it. I was absolutely hooked by it. As I said, I'm recommending all these films, so check this one out if you've not seen it. So coming up next for me, at the number 15 spot, is Once Were Warriors. Real dark, gritty movie. This one about this family who is sort of being pushed and is on the brink of breaking up. You've got the father who's out of work and he's constantly spending all his dole money on getting pissed with his mates at this bar, and his wife just longs for something more out of life. He's just like really abusive to his wife and abusive to his kids. And it leads to a very, very dark sort of ending where one of his friends is actually raping his daughter. It's just some real disturbing stuff, and it just ends with this tragedy, which I won't spoil, but it's just such a well-made film and absolutely engaging. Performance by the lead actor in this is absolutely phenomenal. His name escapes me, but he was in the Star Wars prequels as Jango Fett, and he was also in the Aquaman film that came out a few years ago. But yeah, he's absolutely superb in this film. Some of the reactions he has towards the end of the film are absolutely great. There's a scene in it where he's really funny with he's really harsh to this character who's like getting drunk at the bar, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing here? Just you're getting pissed all the time." And he's like, "Just fuck off, will you?" But yeah, that scene really made me laugh. But as I said, when the heat's turned up on a situation, he's brilliant in this film. Just absolutely fantastic. Just one of those great performances. So yeah, coming up next for me, at number 14 is the Kevin Smith film Clerks. Just a really small movie that does a lot with a little. It's superb. It just pretty much follows one day the events of this clerk and his friend that works at this video store, and just sort of what they get up to. I love the opening scene with the guy who's trying to convince people not to smoke, but he's not doing it for their health reasons. He's doing it for sort of sales reasons. You got Jay and Silent Bob in there as well, who are just two stoners that hang out, two drug dealers that hang out outside the clerk's shop. Shot in black and white, this film as well, that really adds to it. It had an alternative ending that I think Kevin Smith was going to go for, but it just ended on such a bit of a dark note. I'm glad it went with the ending we got. But yeah, I massively enjoyed this one. Not a film I liked the first time I saw it, but it grew on me over time. So coming up next for me, at the number 13 spot, is just a great action movie with Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, Dennis Hopper and Jeff Daniels, and that is Speed. So you've got Dennis Hopper as the villain in this film, who's pretty much out for revenge against the police force who he believes has wronged him. Didn't pay him well when he got his injury. So he pretty much sets bombs off everywhere, and he plants a bomb on a bus. And the rules are, if the bus goes over 50 miles an hour, it triggers the bomb, it arms it. And if the bus reduces the speed from 50, it'll blow up and explode. So Keanu Reeves has to try and save everyone from this bus that's armed with this bomb. Just a great 90s action movie. It's really solid. It really holds up. It's really tense. Some scenes just needed to be ironed out for this film to be an absolute classic for me. The scene where the bus jumps over the incomplete bridge, which isn't finished yet, is a very far-fetched. But as I said, it's still very entertaining. It's one I watch at least a couple of times a year just for the sheer entertainment value. It's great. You've got a great supporting cast as well of the characters who are actually on the bus. It's just great. The sequel to this was absolutely dire, probably apart from Willem Dafoe's performance, and it was just absolutely over the top as the villain. So yeah, coming up next at the number 12 spot is the first film of what I call the Jim Carrey trilogy, which came out in 1994, and that is The Mask. Sort of follows Jim Carrey's character, who plays Stanley Ipkiss, who's this sort of banker, but he's a bit of a nobody. No one really wants to hang out with him. He's not great with women. And he ends up meeting Cameron Diaz's character, but wants to sort of impress her. Ends up stumbling across this mask that is pretty much stores the powers of the Norse god Loki. But they only really work at night when he puts this mask on. It just animates him to this whole other level. And yeah, everyone just is sort of intrigued by him, particularly Cameron Diaz. And yeah, it just takes him to whole new places and is just absolutely insane and crazy at times. Jim Carrey's sort of one of those actors who's not for everyone. I absolutely adored him growing up as a kid. I was just obsessed with him, and everything he did I absolutely loved. But yeah, 1994 was definitely his year. It put him on the map. He had 3 absolute smash hits, this being one of them. I just absolutely love it. The Steelbook here is just absolutely great, with just some fantastic artwork, photography on it as well. Yeah, just really, really good, enjoyable Blu-ray that looks absolutely fantastic as well. And so coming up next for me, at the number 11 spot, is a little underrated Woody Allen film, and that is Bullets Over Broadway. I absolutely loved and adored this film. It just ticked all the boxes for me. It was hysterical. It was well made. It had a fantastic story. I just loved it. The story to this is pretty much, you've got John Cusack's character, who is a playwright, who's been given the opportunity to come up with this new story for a Broadway play. Trouble is, the people financing it are mob gangsters, and the lead mob gangster only gives him the money to make what he wants to make if his girlfriend can have a lead role in the play. His girlfriend can't act for shit, played by Jennifer Tilly. She's absolutely terrible and dire. He just wants to get rid of her, but obviously he can't, because if he gets rid of her, he's got no show. And he's having trouble sort of piecing the play together of how he wants to do the characters. So you've got Jennifer Tilly, who's the mob gangster's girlfriend, and her bodyguard. And he just sort of gives advice to John Cusack's character of how to sort of make the characters more perfect and more realistic. And John Cusack's like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, you've got no experience in writing plays and coming up with characters. But what he actually comes up with is really, really good stuff and really, really benefits the play. Which is what the two of them just sort of put their heads together over and eventually do what's best for the play. I won't dare spoil what happens, but it just leads to just a great climax and a great end. Jim Broadbent's in this as well as one of the supporting characters, who plays one of the actors in the play, who's just sort of trying to keep the weight off, but every time you see him eating, he's just ordering more and more food. It was just such an underrated gem, and I absolutely loved it. One of Woody Allen's funniest and best films, in my opinion. I absolutely dug it. So coming up next for me, at the number 10 spot, is the second film in the Jim Carrey trilogy, in my opinion, and that is the first Ace Ventura film, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. I hold the second one a lot dearer to my heart on this, because I remember being a kid and going to the cinema to see this film see the sequel with my dad. And I remember then the first one came out on VHS, and I bought it, and I didn't realize it was two separate films. So I watched it thinking it was the one I saw at the cinema, but it wasn't. And then that one came out later, so I was like, "Oh, okay." So there's two films. Sort of follows a the Miami Dolphins, who pretty much get their mascot Snowflake the Dolphin kidnapped, and Ace Ventura has to sort of do the investigation. I won't get into spoilers in this, but when you find out who stole the dolphin and who kidnapped the dolphin, and who the main villain is of the film, a lot of jokes in this film went over my head as a child that as an adult I just find super, super creepy now. The scene where Ace Ventura's with the kidnapper, and he says, "Is your guns digging into my hip?" Wow. Straight over my head as a kid. I love the opening scenes as well, when he's been hired to find this dog, but the woman's got no money to pay him, so she ends up paying him in other ways. That chase as well, the scene with the package and he's just booting it everywhere, is just absolutely great. Courtney Cox, who's just an absolute stunner in this film as well, as the love interest, was just absolutely great. His quick quips as well, hysterical. Just another film that planted Jim Carrey on the map, and just caters to his talents. Just another film I absolutely loved and adored. So coming up next for me, at the number 9 spot, is James Cameron's True Lies, with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Again, just another great movie by James Cameron. There's so few and far between the James Cameron movies. There's not a lot of them. He's not one of those directors who churns out a couple of movies a year. We sort of get like 2 every decade from him now. But yeah, this is one that is just absolutely fantastic. Probably his most underlooked movie. So it pretty much stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as this secret agent who sort of leads a double life. He's a secret agent by trade, but to his family, he has to pretend that he's this sort of salesman. You've got Tom Arnold in there as well as his partner, Jamie Lee Curtis as his wife, Bill Paxton in this movie, who shows up in a lot of Cameron movies. Just absolutely fantastic. One of the great character actors, sadly no longer with us, but this film amplified his talents. Just absolutely hysterical. His scenes in the film, when he plays a sort of car salesman, but he's a con man. He tricks women into sleeping with him by pretending to be a spy. Just because he's that desperate. But again, it's just a great character that he's played. The action sequences in this are absolutely superb. The final third act is just so great, involving Arnold Schwarzenegger in a jet. You've got a great sequence as well where he's trying to rescue his wife from a limousine, which is on a going across a bridge, which is got a blowout. You've got as well the stunning Tia Carrere in this as well from Wayne's World. Just an all round fantastic, entertaining as hell movie that I absolutely loved. Another one that caters to Schwarzenegger's acting abilities. As I said, Schwarzenegger is not the greatest actor ever. He's a movie star, and films like The Terminator, Predator, and True Lies are movies that really cater to his acting abilities. He does some great work with James Cameron Schwarzenegger, and this is definitely one of them. So yeah, coming in at number 8 for me is the third film in the sort of unofficial Jim Carrey trilogy from '94, and that is Dumb and Dumber. Alongside with Jeff Daniels, the chemistry these two guys have is just absolutely on point. They just go together absolutely hand in hand. Harry and Lloyd, played respectively by Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, are just two of the absolute most dumbest fuckwits in the world. So fucking stupid. It pretty much follows a woman who Lloyd is dropping off at the airport because he's doing some like part-time work as a limo driver. What we don't know is her husband has been kidnapped and she's dropping off the ransom money at this airport in this briefcase, and Lloyd sees her leave the briefcase and he thinks she's left it at the airport. He picks it up, takes it home with him, ends up travelling all the way to Aspen to reunite her with the briefcase, and just some of the most dumbest things happen along the way. These guys have the most unbelievable luck when it comes to their travels and what the sort of things they get up to. It leads to an absolute brilliant climax. Neither of them sort of get the girl. And then the film ends on a note that is just so stupid for these two. You think they're going to get a break. You think things are going to work out. And it just doesn't. They just shoot themselves in the foot yet again. And it just does the characters justice. It's one of my favourite comedies ever. I absolutely adore it. This is the uncut version. There are so many different versions of this film. I wish they would just release one with sort of every scene in it. There's too many times this film's been edited down, and I just wish they would release a sort of definitive version of it. But yeah, it just really winds me up. But I'm going with the uncut version. It's not the best version there is, but it's the one with the most scenes, so that's the one I've gone with. But yeah, as I said, one of my favourite comedies of all time. So yeah, coming in at the number 7 spot for me is Brandon Lee in The Crow. This is just a classic gothic revenge tale, this one. Brandon Lee plays Eric Draven. This guy who's due to be married to his fiancée, and they're both killed on the eve of Halloween by a gang of thugs who want to evict them from their home to sort of tear it down and rebuild it. But obviously they refuse to leave and end up getting killed by this gang of thugs. The gang of thugs are just absolutely despicable people. What sort of ends up happening is a year later, Eric Draven sort of gets resurrected with these like supernatural powers. Like he can't die. He has a crow that scouts out where the killers were who murdered him and his fiancée, and he sort of kills them one by one throughout the film. It's great. You've got another great performance by the underrated Michael Wincott as the villain, Top Dollar, in this movie. Ernie Hudson's in it, who's just absolutely great as well. Just a fantastic dark movie. It's so satisfying with what it does to the villains as well. The way Eric Draven sort of carries out his revenge to kill these guys. Just absolutely superb and satisfying movie. Really dark. Really great soundtrack as well. Just an all-round superb movie. I absolutely love it. I love as well that sort of dark joke he tells about Jesus Christ. I won't repeat it here, but it's in the movie about at the halfway point. but yeah, it's such a dark, surprising, and satisfying movie, and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, coming up at the number 6 spot for me is probably one of the best movies to be made about making a movie, and that is Tim Burton's Ed Wood with Johnny Depp. I hated this film the first time I saw it. I had no idea what it was about. A lot of it went over my head. I had no idea that this was a movie based on an actual person and an actual film. So I didn't really get enjoyment out of it at all. As I said, I had no idea who actually Ed Wood was. I had no idea what the movie Plan 9 from Outer Space was either. Sort of one of those movies that's renowned for being so bad it's good. But yeah, it's basically a biography pick about Ed Wood, this eccentric movie director who had a vision but had no money at all. Yeah, just you've got to admire the guy because he had a vision. He had ideas for a movie he wanted to make, but yeah, he had no money. Yet he still managed to make the movie he wanted to make with absolutely fuck all budget. Great cast in this film as well. You know, you've got Martin Landau as who just nails Bela Lugosi in this. Sarah Jessica Parker, Patricia Arquette, Bill Murray as well. Jeffrey Jones. Just all the Tim Burton sort of regulars show up in this film. It's just absolutely great. You discover that Ed Wood sort of got this dark secret he likes to keep, where the secret is pretty much he's a cross dresser. He just loves doing it. Sort of like a Wizard of Oz tale at the start, at the beginning, where we meet we go on a journey to meet all the different characters, all the cast he wants to use in this sci-fi movie that Ed Wood wants to make. Mike Starr in this is in it as well, who was in Dumb and Dumber. He's absolutely superb as this movie producer. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. Shot in black and white. Got all the sort of Tim Burtonisms. It's probably Tim Burton's best and well-made film, in my opinion. It's not my favourite Tim Burton film, but it's probably his best film. The Way Schindler's List is Spielberg's best film, in my opinion. Not my favourite, but again, bordering that line between what is best and what is favourite. But yeah, I love this film the more and more I watch it now. I've seen it 3 times. Second and third time were just an absolute joy. For me, it's just so good. Yeah, I can't really do it more justice than that. It's just absolutely fantastic and an engaging film. So coming up next for me at the number 5 spot is Luc Besson's Leon the Professional. What a fucking fantastic action movie this is. Just absolutely great. You've got Jean Reno, who plays Leon the Professional. He's a professional hitman in the film. Really early performance as well from Natalie Portman in this as well. Gary Oldman as the villain, as this sort of this Ben Copper. Just absolutely great. Takes my place majority in this apartment block where Leon the Professional lives, and a few flats away is Matilda, played by Natalie Portman. Her family live in a couple of flats down. Her entire family end up sort of getting gunned down by Gary Oldman and these other police officers. While they're there, so to try and sort of not get discovered by these police officers, she sort of goes out to the shops, comes back, but knocks on Leon's door, just hoping that he's there. And he eventually takes her in and takes her under his wing and teaches her the ways of being a hitman. been uncomfortable with some of the love themes that are threaded into the movie. If you've seen the film, you'll know what I'm on about. But yeah, it leads to an absolutely fantastic climax, in my opinion, with the SWAT team. There's a scene where Leon sort of escapes from a bit of a sticky situation towards the end of the film as well, which I think it kind of stole from Silence of the Lambs. If you've seen that film as well, it's a sort of very, very similar way to escape from that type of situation. The end of it is so satisfying as well. I won't spoil what happens at the end, but it's handled very, very tastefully. In my opinion, when all things come to a head. Easily Luc Besson's best film, in my opinion. Probably my second favourite Luc Besson film is probably The Fifth Element. But this, I think, is his magnum opus and his masterpiece. The opening scenes where we see Leon doing what he does best in his trade, absolutely superb. I didn't really grow up with this film. I saw it maybe about 7 years ago when I was at... I think the first time I saw it was about 9 years ago when I was at university. But yeah, it's just absolutely wonderful. A wonderful watch. Pleasure to watch from start to finish. Really dug it. So coming up next for me at the number 4 spot is a Disney film. Probably one of the best Disney films, in my opinion. My personal favourite Disney film. It's one of the first animated films I saw at the cinema, I think, after Nightmare Before Christmas. And that is The Lion King. Some people might say this film is overrated. Yes, it is, but I have such nostalgia for it. It is fantastic. It is great. Very, very sort of Shakespearean tale about a couple that's outcast after a tragedy that happens. Ends up sort of renouncing his responsibilities and is sort of happy living his life, but then has to come back and face who he is and who he was born to be. That's pretty much the premise, just told with lions and animals in Africa, pretty much. The characters in this are great. You've got Rafiki, Timon and Pumbaa, Scar as the villain, voiced by Jeremy Irons. The music in this film is absolutely fantastic. I can see some songs being annoying, like particularly the Hakuna Matata song. But I absolutely really love songs like Be Prepared and Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Circle of Life as well. Absolutely superb songs in this by Tim Rice and Elton John. The score as well by Hans Zimmer. Absolutely superb. The grand scale of the film as well. See this whenever this film comes out at the cinema. I implore you to see it at the cinema. The stampede sequence looks absolutely phenomenal on the big screen. Just absolutely superb. Some of the cast in this film as well. Nathan Lane, Jeremy Irons, James Earl Jones. Absolutely superb voice actors. That really do the characters justice. As I said, it's a childhood staple of mine. I was buzzing when the Blu-ray came out because the film was just so hard to find from elsewhere. It's absolutely great. One of my favourite animated films ever. And that's why it's my number 4 pick. Now, before I get into the top 3, any one of these top 3 films could have been my number 1. So difficult to rank this top 3. The hardest top 3 films I've probably ever had to rank. It's just so close. These are in my opinion, these 3 films are absolutely perfect. As close to as good films as you can get. So hard to rank them, but I did manage to do it. But as I said, if you've come up with your list of best films from this year and these three are in your top three, it would not surprise me. You can have these films in any sort of order you want. They're all three of these films are superb. So I'm going to kick it off with my number 3 pick, and it's the film that won Best Picture this year at the Oscars. It also won Best Actor as well, Best Director. I think it absolutely stormed at the Oscars. But yeah, I've got it on Steelbook here. It looks absolutely superb on Blu-ray, and that is Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump. This film is just an absolute joy to watch. Every single time I watch this film, it's absolutely great. I actually had the pleasure of watching this film in Alabama as well when I went out there to the States, which was just an absolute joy. One of the best experiences ever, probably watching a film. Even though I was only watching it on a very small screen while I was out there, I just enjoyed the hell out of this film again, watching it there. Just absolutely great. It sort of follows Forrest Gump, who's this. He's got a low IQ. He's a bit slow. Sort of left behind educationally out of the students. No one really wants to be his friend apart from this one girl he meets called Jenny, who's pretty much becomes she is the love of Forrest's life. Pretty much, like, he will fucking do anything for her. He's just absolutely head and heels in love with her. And she's his best friend as well. Just absolutely great. You've got Sally Field playing his mother as well. It just pretty much the film just focuses on him as a character and how he overcomes sort of obstacles that life throws at him. You know, he's got the braces on as a kid. He's getting bullied. Has all of these things happen to him. You know, some are good and some are bad. Some are happy and some are tragic. But the film just never stays in one place too long. It's always on the move. It's always on to the next thing, onto the next scenario, and it never ever gets boring. We're always in a different setting. We're always in a different year. We're always with different characters. Some we meet, we never see again. Some we meet and some come back into it several times, actually. Particularly the Lieutenant Dan character played by Gary Sinise, who has an absolutely fantastic story arc. Just absolutely superb performance from him in this film as well. We get invested with the characters in this film, and not to get into spoilers, but some die and some survive, and we're sad when the characters die. We miss them. I won't say who, just in case whoever's watching this hasn't seen the film. Fully deserved the Best Picture Oscar in my opinion. I absolutely adore this. Tom Hanks is absolutely on point in this film. His second Oscar on the bounce from winning it as well from the year before for Philadelphia. I love the scene where Forrest meets his son for the first time. It's the best acting I think Tom Hanks has ever done. Probably this and the end scene of Captain Phillips, in my opinion, is just Tom Hanks firing at all pistons. He's just superb. Yeah, I can't praise this film enough. It's so good. It's so great. Yeah, it's my number 3 pick with a heavy heart. It was just so difficult to put these three in order. So that's my number 3 pick. Going straight in now with my number 2 pick. And that is Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. This film breaks all the rules and yet works so well for it. This is a film you can't watch in segments, in parts. You have to watch it from start to finish to get the full picture, to get the full scope of the story that's going on. Tarantino pretty much with this film just broke all the rules in terms of storytelling lineage. He moves and shifts the structures of the film around. The 3-story act is there, but it's not in the right order. So that's why you have to watch the film and from in its entirety to get all the pieces there to get for the bigger picture. So the premise to this film is pretty much there isn't really a plot. It just follows characters that interweave, come into each other's lives, exit each other's lives, and just absolutely superb cast. You've got Ving Rhames, Uma Thurman, John Travolta, Sam Jackson, Bruce Willis. Absolutely fantastic cast, delivering fantastic performances. Everybody's on point in this film. It's similar to Forrest Gump, where it's like we don't stay in one place for too long. We're always on the move. We're always in different situations. Loads of callbacks as well. Just absolutely fantastic. I only have one problem with this film, and it's one scene in the film for me that can be taken out of the film because the movie grinds to a fucking halt at this scene. I hate this scene so much. Doesn't take away from the film for me. It totally deserves to be number 2 on this list, in my opinion. It's still a superb film, but it would be even fucking better if this scene wasn't in the film. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but I fucking hate this scene. It's the scene where Butch is in the taxi talking to Esmeralda. The movie grinds to a fucking halt at this scene, and it bores the fuck out of me. It does not need to be in this movie. It just slows everything down, and I don't care about the scene one little bit. I just hate it so much. It just bores me. It slows the... It just... I sound like a broken record saying this. It slows the movie down and doesn't need to be there. Yes, there's some exposition there. We get a little bit more information about Bruce Willis's character, but that's it. We don't really need it. We don't really need it to be in the movie at all. It just goes on for too long for its own good. But that's the only negative with this film I have. Everything else about this film is 10 out of 10. You've got some great sequences. You've got that monologue at the beginning with Sam Jackson where he's quoting the Bible verses to be absolutely intimidating as fuck. 10 out of 10. On point scene. The scene with Christopher Walken where he's given the watch to Bruce Willis as a kid. 10 out of 10. Absolutely superb scene. The restaurant and dance scene between Uma Thurman and John Travolta. Superb. The two of them have just such great chemistry together, and it just works so well. Another 10 out of 10 scene. The bit where she ODs and Vince is taking her to his drug dealer's house, played by Eric Stoltz. Fantastic. I love that scene. It's hilarious for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, I love the scene where Ving Rhames is bumps into Butch and they end up trying to shoot each other after this car crash, and they end up in this sort of hillbilly sex dungeon where Ving Rhames' character gets raped. It's absolutely crazy and insane. 10 out of 10. Amanda Plummer and Tim Roth as well in this film as the bank robbers we meet. Yeah, they fit in there as well. It's superb. It's just that one scene I don't like in the film. Harvey Keitel as the problem solver. Again, great. Superb. I can't praise the film enough. It just has so many good elements to it. It's just absolutely fantastic. I always like to watch it when I'm eating a cheeseburger as well. Right at the start of the film. It just fits so well when they're having that conversation. Tarantino's dialogue on this, 11 out of 10 for me. Absolutely superb. Engaging to hell. I can't praise the film enough, despite that one scene I don't like. I can't do it. It still gets a 10 out of 10 from me, the film. That one scene doesn't outweigh the rest of the film at all for me, in my opinion. It's superb. I still watch it. It's still fantastic. And that's why it's my number 2. So I'm going to go straight into the number 1 now for me, and that is Frank Darabont's Shawshank Redemption. The highest rated movie on IMDb. I think it's got a score of about 9.3 at the time of this recording. Based on the Stephen King novel Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. Yeah, this film is perfection. Perfection. This is why it's my number one. Every scene is justified to be here in this film. Gonna get into the premise of the film. It pretty much follows Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, who's sentenced to 2 life sentences back to back for the murder of his wife and her lover, the guy he caught her with, this golf club. Sentenced to 2 back-to-back prisons at the Shawshank prison. We don't know whether he committed the crime or not for the first half of the film. That's left a little bit ambiguous to us. We're introduced straight away into the life of what it's like to live in a prison. It's horrific. Particularly the first night when some of the new inmates arrive along with Tim Robbins' character. It's absolutely terrifying with what actually happens to one of them. The film is just all about hope. We meet Red, played by Morgan Freeman, who's a guy who knows how to get things, and he sort of becomes best friends with Andy Dufresne over the years that they're there. Yeah, I'm just trying to piece together like what makes this film so great. It's hard to articulate, but it's what Andy Dufresne then does is he realizes that prison life is what it's going to be like now for him, so he uses it to his advantage. He's an accountant, and he uses that to his advantage. He gets in with the guards. He ends up doing all the guards' taxes for them, even the wardens. They're pretty much in his back pocket. We then, later on in the film, meet a new character who's introduced, who Andy Dufresne helps. He gets him an English language qualification. Then that character finds out why Andy's in jail. Finds out that he's in jail for murdering someone at the golf club. We then find out that this person actually spent time in another prison with someone who confessed to him that he did the murders. We then find out that that's a chance for Andy to get out of prison. But because Andy's doing so well and saving the prison money and helping all the guards out, they do absolutely everything to keep him in that jail. That's all I'm going to say about the plot, because to get into it anymore would spoil the film. It leads to one of the most satisfying endings in cinema, period. A great sequence. The last 40 minutes, half hour of this film, flawless, in my opinion. Absolutely flawless. Masterpiece to describe this film is an understatement, in my opinion. This is a movie I can watch over and over and over again without ever getting bored of it. This film teaches you to never ever give up hope. There are things in this world that people can never ever take away from you. No matter how hard they try or how well they think they've done it, they can never ever take away hope from you. Fantastic film. Fantastic performances. Robbed of the Oscars, in my opinion, with Forrest Gump. But Forrest Gump still deserved to win that Oscar. Such a tough net year. As I said, these top 3 films, any one of these top 3 films could have been number 1. They're absolutely fantastic. Shawshank just gets over the edge for me because of how flawless I find the film. Yeah, not my favourite film, but it's one of the best films. Just absolutely superb. Masterfully directed as well by Frank Darabont. Again, another one of those directors who was only directed a handful of films. He did a film called The Majestic as well with Jim Carrey, but probably what he's most famous for is directing The Mist as well. And of course, the fabulous Green Mile. Another film that is just very, very close to perfection in my opinion. Not as good as Shawshank, but is still very, very high up there. If you haven't seen this movie, you're missing out. Get this film into your life. It's just absolutely fantastic. You would probably feel emotionally drained by the end of it, but still so very, very, very satisfied. Fantastic cast as well. You got Morgan Freeman, Tim Robbins, Clancy Brown as the head prison guard, who's just one fucking horrible bastard, to say the least. But it's so engaging. You've got just some fantastic characters with what they go through as well. Particularly with Brooks, with what is a character who comes to a very, very, very tragic end because he's so institutionalized when he gets released from prison. One of my favorite scenes in the movie as well is when Andy Dufresne sort of locks himself in this room with this record player and he plays music which probably a lot of the inmates haven't heard for many, many years. And Morgan Freeman just describes it over the narration by saying, you know, those two Italian singers could have been singing about something so beautiful words couldn't even describe it, but you know, while we were listening to that, every man on Shawshank felt free. The cinematography is superb. I love how good this film looks. There's a sequence where the prison needs the roof retarring, so a few of the prisoners volunteer to do the job, and the film just looks so beautiful from the top of the building. The sunset just looks absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I can't praise this movie enough. As I said, if you've not seen it, get it into your life. You're missing out. If you have seen it, you know how good it is. Just watch it again. It's absolutely superb. I've never ever met anyone who has disliked this film ever. Even people who don't like movies like this film. It's just absolutely on point, masterclass in filmmaking. Gets an A+, 15 out of 10 from me. And it's a masterpiece, to say the least. So yeah, as you can tell from that list, 1994 just absolutely churned out some works of art, in my opinion. So I'm going to leave the video there. I know this has gone on for quite a long time, so thanks for sticking to the end if you have. If you've liked the video, please subscribe, give a thumbs up and all that jazz. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to be back soon, hopefully, with my top 25 favourite films from 1995. Another stellar year, which churned out some great movies. Yeah, the 90s was a pretty good decade for film. This year, in particular, one of the best. So yeah, I'm going to say thanks very much for watching, and take care.